side. No, that's
I don't know. I don't know what the plans.
yeah, we look more authoritative this way.
Yeah.
And I'm very committed to this one. Just glad there's not like had to give up my
Mic check, mic check. 1, 2. Mic check, 2, 3, 4. Check, check, 2, 3.
Here it comes, guys.
We're gonna weave. I'm gonna weave in.
Weave amongst here. How about y'all go front and I'll go behind? How's that?
That's what you want.
That's what I want.
I'll go by Burton. He's supposed to interweave.
I'll be in the women's section.
Okay. Yes.
Put in the ladies section.
Girls
Just kidding.
will.
We're kidding.
I like how she did that.
See,
Get up there.
we.
Okay, hello. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're really happy to be back in Polk County, and I want to thank everyone that we have with us today for today's bill signing. We have, of course, the Sheriff of Polk County, Grady Judd. We also have, it's a lot safer county here than many other places around the country because they're doing it right. We also have from Seminole County, Sheriff Dennis Lima. I want to thank him. The next Speaker of the House of Representatives in the state of Florida, Paul Renner, is here. We have Senators Broder and Stargel from the Florida Senate. And then we have Representatives Plakin, Hawkins, Colleen Burton. Is Melanie Bell here? I did not see her. Okay, so we have Hawkins, Burton, and Plakin. I want to thank them. We have Tom Conzi, paramedic with Polk County Fire Rescue. Thank you for being here. And we're also joined by two individuals who represent, unfortunately, a large number of families that have been personally impacted by fentanyl. We have Mike Itani and Ellen Snelling. Earlier today, my wife, the First Lady, held an assembly at a school in Osceola County to heighten students' understanding of the dangerous, life-altering effects of substance use and abuse. Her campaign, The Facts Your Future, is just one element of our strategy to address the havoc that drug abuse and misuse has wreaked all across Florida. We can and must lower the demand for drugs through education and outreach programs, but we also must fight the supply of drugs and crack down on dealers and traffickers, particularly of substances like fentanyl. And if you look at what's going on in the southern border right now, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this with the massive numbers of people that are coming across the border illegally. It's fueling a massive infusion of fentanyl into this country. And for the first time, I think, in the history of our country, the leading cause of death for people 18 to 45 in the United States of America is now fentanyl overdose. So we have seen this firsthand in the state of Florida. One of my first actions as governor was to create the statewide task force on opioid abuse to develop a statewide strategy to combat the opioid epidemic through education, treatment, prevention, recovery, and law enforcement. So today, we will be signing HB 95, which implements the recommendations of the task force into law. So first, the bill makes the distribution of methamphetamine, which causes the death of a person, to be a felony murder. We do that with other substances. We will do it with that. And there is methamphetamine coming across the border as well. Used to see people making it here in the United States. It's actually not as much as it used to be, but it's way more coming across the border now. The bill enhances the penalties for selling controlled substances within 1,000 feet of substance abuse treatment facilities. And then in addition to those recommendations, HB 95 increases the mandatory minimum sentence for trafficking fentanyl and analogs, which has impacted communities across Florida and across the United States. As I mentioned, it was the leading cause of death for Americans 18 to 45 in the year 2021. And if you look at what can be done when you're bringing it across the border, for example, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be a fatal dose. So if you have 1,200 pounds of fentanyl, like was seized at the border just last month, that's enough to kill almost 90% of the United States population. So drug dealers are increasingly lacing other drugs with fentanyl, and we've seen it in a wide variety of substances. You saw it a couple months ago or recently in Fort Lauderdale. There was spring break. You had these spring breakers, using cocaine and had fentanyl. It was so potent that the Good Samaritan bystanders who saved the lives of one of the students went into respiratory arrest because of the fentanyl exposure they experienced just from doing CPR. So we're going to do all we can to decrease the prevalence of fentanyl in Florida, and that means if you're dealing fentanyl, you are killing people and you are going to be put in jail. The Biden administration's reckless open border policies have threatened the safety of all Americans, but certainly of Floridians as we continue to see record amount. In fiscal year 2021, Customs and Border Patrol seized 11,000 pounds of fentanyl. That was more than double they had seized in 2020. And at least 90% of all seized fentanyl has come across the southern border. Already this year, 6,000 pounds of fentanyl has been seized. And so if you look at what we've seen recently, we've seen an increase in opioid deaths across the country, including here in Florida. According to Florida Medical Examiners Commission, fentanyl caused 5,300 deaths in 2020, more than any other narcotic. And then while we have some data for the first 6 months of 2021 only, opioid-related deaths increased another 5.5%, and deaths caused by fentanyl increased by almost 10% in the first 6 months. And so this is something that's affecting communities all across our state. You talk to sheriffs, you talk to police chiefs, you talk to first responders, and this is something that's all too common. And so I'm thankful for the legislature to step up and do something about it. We have a whole variety of ways that we're trying to combat this epidemic, but you do need to hold people accountable. And that's what we'll end up doing here today. And so we're going to hear from some folks here, and then I will sign the bill into law. So first, we're going to have Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County.
Thank you very much, Governor. I just left a meeting, and a gentleman ran up to me and said, "You're going to be with the governor?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Would you tell him something?" I said, "Yes. Tell him that God's here, then Governor DeSantis, and then you get to be third." And I said, I'll take that. I'll take third in that group any day of the week. So it is my honor to be here to tell you there's a reason why Florida is safe. And it's safe because of our legislature and our governor who leads the way. He has told me time and again that Florida does not prosper. People do not prosper if they're not safe and they don't feel safe. Since Governor DeSantis came to us as our governor, we are safer than we've ever been in this county. Our year-to-date crime is down this year, and it was lower last year than it was the year before. So, Governor, you made that happen. However, the governor would be disappointed if I didn't have cards, okay? So I have cards. If there's people that wonder what a deadly dose of fentanyl is, this is it, 2 milligrams. 2 milligrams, and 116 people in Polk County alone last year died from just this small amount of fentanyl. There was 5,806 deaths in 2020, and we're on track this year to almost double what we had in 2020. This is dangerous. We've got a governor that cares for you, that wants to make sure that the sellers pay a price. Now look, sometimes it's not in that form. Sometimes it's in a pill form. Now, this is particularly frightening. This is designed to look like an M30, an oxycodone pill. So we have folks buying this pill that's stamped M30 that looks like oxycodone. It's not oxycodone. It's got binders in it and fentanyl. So they're taking the oxycodone rate and they're getting an overdose of fentanyl. These pills came from a case that we worked. And as you know, fentanyl is 100 times more dangerous. But Governor, as we close out, this is Gary Scott Jr., he's 31, known as Foo. We currently have him in the county jail. Do you know why? Because he's a drug dealer. And we were able to successfully track him back to the victim, one of the 116 that died. The grand jury indicted him for first-degree murder and sale of fentanyl. He has 19 previous criminal charges, and we currently have 16 charges against him. This is what a drug dealer looks like. They come in all races, all sexes, all ages. But at the end of the day, they kill people, and Gary Scott thought he was making another controlled delivery, but he made the statement, "This is really good and really strong." Well, it was. It killed the man. So, Governor, when we have these pieces of legislation and you agree to sign them into law, you personally are saving the lives of untold hundreds or thousands of people across the state, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have from Seminole County, Sheriff Dennis Lima.
Thank you so much, Governor. When they talked to me about coming to today's news conference, I said, if I have the opportunity to stand between America's governor and America's sheriff, I'm not missing the opportunity to do that, for sure. I'm serious, actually. But from day one, Governor, you have been steadfast in your commitment to look at this opioid epidemic in a very holistic approach. I just left the First Lady's news conference and gathering at the school, and it is so incredibly important to increase awareness. We know the story about Big Pharma right now, and here in the state of Florida, those individuals that helped create this problem are being held accountable. And in addition to that, you cannot address this problem without holding the drug dealers accountable to the fullest extent of the law. It absolutely has to happen. In Seminole County, we have prosecuted more than 30 drug dealers for first-degree murder for dealing deadly doses of fentanyl, while at the same time getting people who have addictions clean and sober to the best of our ability. We do that because it's the right thing to do, and if we don't do that, generations of our tax dollars end up raising families because they were broken and not corrected. I want to thank the leaders and sponsors of this bill, Senator Jason Broder, who was just a wonderful ambassador in the Senate, and then our great House of Representatives that was there, but the leadership of Representative Scott Plakin, who has always been a solid ambassador of all that's going on in our community. Scott, thank you so much for what you're doing. As well as the Florida sheriffs, because we come together for a legislative session and we agree on certain legislative priorities, and this was one of the legislative priorities that we agreed on. I want to thank all of the members of the team at the Seminole County Sheriff's Office that work with our legislative partners to make sure that we can champion this bill. And we thought we had a good, solid bill going in. And then the minimum mandatories and those priorities that the governor brought in at the last moment even sharpened this bill, and this effort quite literally will save lives. And I thank you, Governor, for you and your team and your advocacy. This is why Florida sheriffs stand with you and stand behind you and are so appreciative of the work that you do. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, Tom Conzi, Polk County Fire Rescue Paramedic. Where's he at?
Good afternoon. I want to thank Governor DeSantis for being here today, along with the commissioners, Sheriff Grady Judd, our state representatives, state senates, Fire Chief Robert Weech, Mr. Hallman, and all of the first responders here today. I'm engineer paramedic Tom Conzi, and I've been with Polk County Fire Rescue for 15 years. I stand before you today representing the first responders of this great state of Florida. I have the unique opportunity to tell you a story about fentanyl, a firsthand account of what us first responders see every day. The story stands out more to me than most. It was a typical shift sitting right here at this station, enjoying our night and ourselves. But when the tones went off for a call, it was an overdose. Again. These types of calls are typical, but not this one. We raced out of station, arrived on scene. We were met by an older lady begging for help, pleading for us to hurry. She escorted us to a small shed in the back of her property. It was dark, with only the outside lighting of our fire trucks and ambulances illuminating the space just enough. We see a man in his late 20s, unresponsive and barely breathing, laying on a mattress, laying on the ground. This patient was pale, sweating and on the brink of death. My crew and I acted swiftly, provided airway support, and administered Narcan. After a few moments, this young man went from the brink of death to awake and responsive. He was a normal person. You'd see him in a local grocery store or sitting next to him in a restaurant. We hurried, loaded him onto the ambulance. You see, we run these calls daily, but this one was a little different. The patient was a father. How do I know that, you may ask? The lady that met us at the road, that was a patient's mother. That patient's son was the one that found him in that state and ran to his grandmother to get help. This young child was under the age of 10, and he witnessed this whole thing. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when we think of fentanyl, we think of the addicts, we think of the dealers. But what we forget sometimes are the other victims in this crisis, the families, especially the children. Thank you again, Governor DeSantis, for allowing me to tell my story, for allowing me to speak today on this fentanyl crisis as a first responder and in our point of view. With the signing of this bill today, I believe we are one step closer to solving this crisis. Thank you.
Okay, and to offer some personal testimony about fentanyl, Mike Atani. Where's he at?
Thank you, Governor. I want to thank the governor's office and the governor himself for pushing for this. Means a lot to me and our family. In 2000, by the way, my name's Mike Atani. We live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I lost my 23-year-old son to fentanyl overdose in July 13th of 2018. Normal kid, grew up, a lot of friends, involved in sports, nothing abnormal. But from time to time, him and his buddies, which just seems like the norm now, they mess with things, peer pressure. They get try things, and then kind of spirals out of control, and he had a little bit of an addiction problem, and so we always warned him growing up, hey, listen, stay away from that stuff. You don't know what people's putting in things nowadays. And sure enough, we got a call one day that we couldn't get a hold of him, and we ended up, his buddy went into his apartment and found him unresponsive, and it was too late. And a lot of people think of people that have addiction problems. They think of them when they pass away, and they call it an overdose. They think of them as junkies, and you see in the movies street alleys, and they're behind dumpsters, shooting up or whatever. But they're everyday normal people just like us, and I refuse to call this an overdose, because I truly believe that if you're intentionally giving somebody something that is going to kill them, I'm going to call it a murder from now on, because that's exactly what it is. It's a murder. So hopefully that this will help. Too late for my son, but hopefully it will help other families in the future going forward, and get some of these guys off the street, and hopefully wipe this out. And again, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Okay, our next speaker of the Florida House, Paul Renner. Thank you.
Well, today is a reminder that our governor, our legislature, and our local law enforcement and first responders take public safety very seriously and protecting the lives of Floridians. I know that people in this room, and many that if we don't have somebody close to us, we know somebody who's been affected by this opioid crisis. And today, we take a strong stand. Unlike the federal government that is doing nothing at the border and allowing fentanyl, a lethal drug, to come across in massive quantities, as the governor noted, is unacceptable. We have a different approach here in Florida. If you come and sell fentanyl to our citizens, you will spend the best years of your life here in Florida in prison. In prison. This drug is tantamount to murder, and in this bill, we treat it just like that. And I can commit to you that my colleagues in the legislature, along with the leadership of the governor, Sheriff Judd, Sheriff Lima, we will never rest until we get after this tragedy and stop men and women like Mike's son from ever losing their lives again. I promise you that. And I'm privileged to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, and we're excited to be able to take another step to try to keep the state safe and protect people. And I think when you're talking about fentanyl, I mean, you know, there are people that using these substances, some of them don't appreciate what this is. It's not like you're even going on like ingesting massive amounts. I mean, just a little bit can be the end. And so it's a really, really difficult thing. I also want to thank everybody here who's hosted us with Polk Fire. Also thank the sheriffs from both here in Polk and Seminole, all the deputies, all the firefighters. You know, this year, this current fiscal year, we did $1,000 bonuses for every firefighter and police officer in the entire state of Florida. And so whether you're here, whether you're a deputy, that was municipal, county, state level. We were really happy about that. And then we'll put in the finishing touches on going through this budget for next fiscal year, starting July 1st. And I'm happy that the legislature has re-upped that. So all the firefighters here will get another $1,000 bonus. All of Sheriff Judd and Lima's deputies will get a $1,000 bonus. Any of the municipal police departments will all get a $1,000 bonus. So we're happy to be standing up for the folks that are on the front lines, keeping our community safe 2 years in a row. Okay, we're going to go make this official. Okay, any questions before I head out of town? All right, hearing none. God bless. Oh, yes. Well, any parent that suffered a loss, the entire state of Florida, our heart goes out to you. I can't imagine what it'd be like to lose a child. I got to think that's one of the worst things that can happen to anybody. And I think it's doubly so that, this is not like something that kids necessarily make, horrible decisions their whole life. I mean, you heard Mike, these are normal kids. They may make a decision here or there and get caught into this, but then with something like this, you don't really get a second chance. And so, exactly. And that's the one thing I think, and I know Dennis and I have talked about this. You go to look at like certain street drugs that are considered, quote, not as lethal. If this fentanyl is in it, then all of a sudden you're looking at something that could take your life. And so if you're out there as kids in particular, I would just say the last thing you want to be doing is just ingesting or using any of these foreign substances. I'm not saying it was ever anything you wanted to do, but compared to where we were like in the 60s to now, this stuff is really, really problematic. And so that's that. For other parents who, like most of us, who haven't had to go through this, what I would just say is the state of Florida, we're doing all we can across a wide variety of ways. Yes, someone dealing fentanyl is murdering people, and they are going to go to prison in the state of Florida, and that's appropriate. But we're also doing things like the First Lady is doing the outreach to the young kids. I remember last year we were at Seminole High School over in Pinellas County. We had a fella there talking about what had happened when he started using drugs, and he ended up getting in a really serious accident and had major problems. You've had other people tell their stories about how this has really destroyed their lives. And fortunately, some people are able to get on a better path. But this is something that could affect any one of us at any time in terms of our families. And so from education to law enforcement to everything in between, we're doing what we can to make sure that folks are given the tools they need to succeed. If someone's using it, we want to get them into treatment. Okay, we're not going to want to put someone in jail for making a bad decision using like a fentanyl. I mean, that's not the right approach. But the people that are dealing this and knowingly put that out, you cannot do anything else but throw the book at them. And so that's what we're going to do. Yes, absolutely. I think so. When you're talking about something that I mean, Grady had the pictures of how such a small amount of this can not only kill you, I mean, a small amount of that could kill everyone here. It would not take that much for us, if we put it right there, to knock out everybody that's in this fire station right now. And so, you are playing with people's lives when you decide to do that. And, not that it's right to do anything that's against the law, because it's not, but I can tell you, just seeing cases come before me, for example, when we're in clemency, I look at some of these guys that maybe made some bad decisions in the 70s and 80s compared to now, and the risk that you're putting on people now with this stuff is off the charts. All right, everybody, God bless Polk County. We'll see you soon.